Hello, and welcome to the 5th meeting of the Top Shelf Society. We have some wonderful top shelfers here, and we can't wait to talk about the book that we read for this month, the month of September. And that was Fahrenheit 451. Woo! Yes! So before we get started with things for the show tonight, we do want to let you know that our October book is going to be Mexican Gothic. I've heard some good things about it and some not so good things about it. So I think it'll be an interesting discussion nevertheless. But if you are watching this live right now, we're so glad that you're here. Thanks for joining us. You truly are top shelf. We already have a few comments. Of course, the Library of Alexandria. Woo! Hi, we're so glad you're here. And so we have an outline of fun events we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to do some member intros. We are going to compare the book to food, which has just somehow become a top shelf thing. And I've got some cool quotes that we're going to discuss. So without further ado, we'll do our introductions like usual, and then we'll hop into it. So I am Kristen. My channel is Perks of a Book Flower, and I read basically everything, but I really like contemporary and literary fiction.
Hi, I'm Angela. My channel is Angela Rose Reads, and same as Kristen, I read everything, but my favorites are usually probably just fantasy is my favorite.
Stephanie?
Oh, sorry. I was like comments come up. My channel is Stephanie's Book Verse, and I honestly read mostly fantasy, but I throw other stuff in there every once in a while too. So.
My name's Sarah, and I like to read with my cat. And we read, I'm trying to make this a bit better than the last 4 times or 3 times or however. But I like to read graphic novels and nonfiction, and yeah.
My name is Laura. My channel is Laura Reads Pages, and I read a little bit of everything. I read classics and literary fiction and contemporary, and yeah, a little bit of everything.
Yep. And we just want to give a nod of our head to Yesenia, who is here with us today in spirit. So anyways, let's move on. We also have a couple other people who have joined us. Hello. Oh, I'm glad you'll be reading Mexican Gothic with us. And Sarah, you've got a little greeting.
Hello. Olivia says meow. That's all she can say.
All right, so before we get started, I just want to ask, how has everyone been? Are you good? Have you had any strange accidents happen with your produce lately?
No,
Kristen, have you?
Yes, actually, I was going to bring it up in a minute. It happened on Thursday. It was a carrot.
Are you for real?
Yeah, no, I'm dead serious. It was a carrot. And you can't really see it, but it's like got cut underneath my thumbnail on a carrot.
I didn't know that. You could get cut by produce other than pineapples.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's been a grape, and now it's a carrot. And yeah, so, okay, I was trying to like clean it and put it in some soup, and there was like dirt on the bottom, so I was trying to like dig it out, and I guess this is my own fault because I used my fingernail, and it just cut the inside, and I was like, oh my gosh, wait till I tell the top shelf ladies about this.
I don't know how to do this.
At my lab, we have cut-resistant gloves.
You had what?
At my lab, we have cut-resistant gloves that you're to wear on your non-dominant hand so you don't slice yourself during dissections. I can send you one.
Oh, thank you. I need that, I guess.
Or maybe 2. Yeah, who knows?
Did anyone growing up read the Bunnicula books about a vampire rabbit that sucks vegetables and turns them to zombies?
No, I want to.
Heard of them.
I want to read this.
Oh my gosh.
They're very cute.
It sounds fun.
That's amazing.
Well, I'm glad that you guys have remained mostly free from the demon of produce. Anyways, So Fahrenheit 451. All right. It's a book about a society that is very different from ours, but maybe not so different. I don't know. You'd call it, I guess, like a dystopian kind of environment, maybe, right? And basically, in the society, the firemen burn books instead of putting out fires. And there's lots of other things going on. We've got people who drive like 100 miles per hour. And basically, our main character is in this society and then decides one day that, hey, maybe he doesn't want to burn books after all. And that's what Fahrenheit 451 is about in a nutshell. So to get us started, I thought it might be fun, since this is just what we do now, to compare like the book to a food. So if you were to say Fahrenheit 451 was a food, what would it be?
Butter.
Butter.
Because of the Angela.
I was literally waiting for it. I was like,
I just wanted to say this the whole time. I don't know if I can say it properly, but I remember in the book there was like a automatic toast and like butterer. Do you remember that?
Flaming hot Cheetos.
Yeah. Cheetos, yes.
Yes. I was going to Alan to give us an idea. He's so clever.
That was great. Tara, I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I saw that and I was just like, gold.
It is real gold. I love it.
Okay, sorry, continue.
Oh, but there's just like this toaster that will butter your bread at the same time. So I just told like Angela after I read that how like ridiculous that was and how like this needs to be like discussed.
Wait, that was
yeah, there was like an automatic like bread toaster butterer
in the book.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, it's even
yeah.
It's in the book.
I wonder why that hasn't been invented, because a lot of the things in the book have actually been invented at this point. But we don't have self-buttering toasters. I wonder why that is.
That was a waste of time.
Maybe.
I think
not worth our.
I think it was. I think
Okay.
I could do without it.
Any other suggestions? I was thinking that like, is that burnt Alaska, that dessert that like is on fire, or is that what that's called?
Yeah, baked Alaska.
Baked Alaska could be one, but I personally think that Flamin' Hot Cheetos would be a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so now this might be the weirdest thing I've ever had us do, but I was just hit with the inspiration. I was like, hey, this could be fun. All right. So I have got 5 of the main characters from the book here. Montag, Beatty, Clarisse, Mildred, and Faber. And I thought we could sort them into these 3 different foods that are like top shelf foods. So I'm just listening. Okay, I know it sounds weird. Just listen, though. I've got cheese curds, rotten watermelon, and a sharp carrot.
Okay.
Okay,
So
first one, Montag.
Cheese curds.
Cheese curds. Jinx.
cheese curds.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of a softy.
Yeah, but like he seems like he's just gonna be normal and stuff. But then as the book goes on, he gets all like squeaky. I don't know.
I still haven't had a cheese curd, so I don't know if that's accurate, but I'm for it.
Okay.
Now, whenever I think of Montag, I'm going to think of poutine. Do you know what poutine is? Oh, Stephanie, I don't think you were there at the Unhoneymooners, were you?
I was. I worked.
Angela, you were at the chat, but you guys, do you?
I just know what poutine is too. Yeah, it's Canadian mostly, right? It's like French fries with a bunch of stuff on it.
I think it originated in Quebec. I would be shocked if it was anywhere other than there that it originated from.
Yeah, it actually didn't originate that long ago either. It was in the 70s or something that it became big. It's starting in Quebec, I think.
It's like fries and gravy and cheese curds. It's a very famous like Canadian food. We don't have many, but that's one of them.
You guys are. I got now. I need to know that I need to eat before these because we always end up talking about food, and I'm so hungry.
Okay, so Montag is a cheese curd. Good to know. Now we have Beatty. So Beatty, I don't know, the fire chief guy. I want to say that he's a rotten watermelon, but I also think he might be a complicated character. But I probably would say rotten watermelon.
Oh, you know what? At the end of the edition of the book that I had, there was a little afterword by the author, and he was talking about how he had written a stage play with the same characters from Fahrenheit 451, and like imagined sort of different backgrounds for the characters. And actually the stage play was focused around when Montag first joined the firefighters, and when Montag and Beatty were first meeting, and they said that Beatty actually has a house full of books at home.
I'm not surprised he quotes them constantly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's some carrot though, because didn't he hurt him like physically? They like, I don't know, not backstabbing, but kind of
Carrot stabbing.
carrot
I mean,
stabbing.
he's a flaming hot Cheeto. I mean, he's just out there.
Maybe all of them combined.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna say rotten watermelon because
I think rotten watermelon.
He's like would we say he's the villain? I mean, I guess society is really the villain.
I think if you were to personify like who the villain is, it would be him.
Yeah. Okay, so then we have Clarisse, the little girl.
Aww.
She's a sharp carrot, a good sharp carrot. She's like the best sharp carrot.
Yeah.
Mildred.
Oh, she's a rotten watermelon.
Watermelon,
Yeah, she's pretty bad.
yeah.
And Faber.
Cheese curds.
Cheese curd.
Cheese curds.
He's like so afraid.
You know.
And I'm afraid to eat cheese curds, so there we go.
Okay, so now I guess I want to kind of get into the heart of the discussion, and I guess I'm going to call this segment like a society gone wrong. And I just want to start off by discussing like what are all of the wrong, weird, strange things that happen in the world of Fahrenheit 451.
I actually thought I'm just going to name one, and I'm sure people will jump in with others, but I actually thought one of the really interesting ones was you referenced earlier, the driving really fast, because if you're driving that fast, the only thing that you can concentrate on is your driving. And so it's like a way of preventing yourself from having thoughts. And that seems to be the theme of the book, is that distraction. Everyone is looking for distraction, and that's definitely a commentary on like Ray Bradbury's time and our time now. So I thought that was very interesting, because I think people are always looking for distraction, but I just that would be so effective, I guess, is why that stood out in my head. And I think everyone's had moments where they want that. So
it's a brilliant point. No, I hadn't thought about it that way. I guess I was just thinking like, oh wow, the society is so like caught up in their self, that they can't take a moment to consider how their driving might affect others. But the fact that you have it like instead be because it's just distracting enough that they don't have to think, that is just brilliant, I guess, and true. Because the reason they're all like obsessed with like the TV, and it's gotten to the point where like they'll make scripts to put people's names into the show so that they feel like they are like a part of the the shows they're watching, and they have third walls and fourth walls of TV. Like, that was what I was going to add. Like, it's just an insane amount of television.
It's kind of like this. I mean, we have like our people that we talk to on here, and
Yeah.
these are our friends, and we chat with them online and stuff. So it's kind of similar. We are chatting about books though. So
Yeah, well,
Another thing-
it's kind of. Go ahead. Actually, go ahead. I already spoke. So.
Oh, I was just gonna give mine, so it's different. So if you're going about that, you should keep going.
No, go ahead, Angela.
Oh, I was just gonna say the thing that struck me the most that I think about in that society is how at that one local station there were 9 or 10 overdoses every single night. And to the point where they didn't even need doctors or nurses or any medical professionals to take care of people who either accidentally, because they're distracted, or purposefully take too many pills. And that was pretty shocking and mind-blowing to me.
So why are they? Why do you think that everyone is trying to overdose?
I think that with Mildred, her name was Mildred, right? The wife.
Mhm.
If with her, it sounded like she was so distracted, she wasn't even aware that she had already taken her doses, because she had the little seashell in her ear at all times, and she wasn't even aware of it. And then when he told her what had happened, she's like, oh no, that couldn't have happened. So on one hand, it might be like Laura was saying, that they're just so distracted. But then on the other hand, personally, I would also think that, when everything isn't real necessarily, like you said, everything's a lot of scripted and you're kind of not really in life. It just seems like a TV program. Like, there's not much that you would feel and care to feel. So I don't know. It just seemed kind of bleak.
And I think one of the things that makes us like truly feel alive are the meaningful relationships that we have. Like, we don't have to have a lot of them, but I think that we need to have at least one. And I think that going off of what Laura said, with the level of distraction that everyone has, it's like there is no time and no mental space to even create one meaningful relationship, which I think would create a lot of loneliness and sadness if they ever took the time to feel it.
Agreed.
Any other crazy things about this world? Maybe the obvious one.
they burn books.
Yeah. The firemen burned the books. So what's their reasoning for that, I guess? Ideas are dangerous. At one time it was unfair. People could like get more information than others and like hold it over people, and it caused all these problems, or so they say.
And
That's what
they
Beatty said. Yeah.
Different people would put different things. And so like they can't be right, they can't be good, because they like conflict against each other and they don't agree. So
And it's sort of the opposite of what everyone's trying to do in this society, which is to distract themselves. But books are there like as a form of enlightenment and as like a form of being like more present and more aware in your world. So they're like the antipode. I didn't say that right, but they're like the opposite of the aims of the society. I thought it was interesting that they made that clear in the book, that it wasn't as if society had been, forced into this way of living physically, and people had voluntarily shunned books because they wanted, maybe they were too difficult.
Peace was the word they used. Yeah, peace.
They wanted peace, yeah. So I think it's kind of interesting to think about the distraction, especially the driving, where you have to focus on the moment, because that's what you're trying to do, like through meditation and different practices that are very positive. But it always has to be a balance, I guess. And I also, last thing, I also thought it was interesting that when Montag opens the book and Faber's, helping him access this material, I like that they made it clear that it wasn't just simply like reading the books. You couldn't necessarily, access them. You had to be, he had to have the guidance of Faber, like he had to be taught to access these books. So, and how the firemen, Beatty said, every time like every fireman has a moment where they open a book and then they realize there's nothing in it. What are these things? Because if you had opened a book never having read your whole life, you wouldn't necessarily get it, you know? So I just liked that yeah, I liked that it wasn't it wasn't automatic. They opened a book and were able to like access the magic of what a book is. Like he needed Faber in order to help him. So
yeah, and as a teacher, I think that you would like notice that and appreciate that too. I didn't think about that either, but it's a good point. And we've all have people in our life who have somehow made books accessible for us and changed our lives. Like clearly, we're here talking about books because we love them, and someone opened that door for us. And I think that I can say, like, fair enough that I have students who don't like to read, and the reason is because they have been told that they needed to read books that either they're not ready for yet, or they haven't like had that door opened for them yet to make them relatable. And like as a teacher, right, it's my job to meet them where they're at and provide that doorway. And so that's a good point. I was also going to add like the atomic warfare that just constantly happens all the time in this society.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Like one day they're in war and then the next that's over and then here comes another and oh yeah, the bombs, like, oh my gosh. That was one of the things that I guess I felt like was such a kind of over exaggeration. Like I could see how Bradbury was like thinking about like how events could be made even more dramatic in the future if humans didn't change their ways.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of very common of the time that Ray Bradbury was writing, because it was during the Cold War era and people really thought that that was a future, and that at the time, like, it was a very precarious situation that was like a possible, that I think was seen as like a possible course or a possible future for people. So yeah.
Does anyone read or have the version of Neil Gaiman's introduction or foreword, or because he talked about that and it was really I couldn't believe, I didn't know it was Neil Gaiman until I was done. I was like, oh, no wonder why even this was written so beautifully. But he talked about what was going on in the world, about how, like, just like you said, it was the Cold War, a lot of worry about young people driving really fast at the time period and being reckless and different things, and like how those little things fit into this book. So yeah, you're spot on agreed with what they said, because apparently he was friends for a little while with the author when he was older. So
oh my gosh,
and I think he got so much right. You read it and you think he got a freakish amount right, or at least like you can see versions of our world now in the book, but fortunately that kind of nuclear apocalypse never really happened.
It's terrifying when you can see that in books where like it's written sometime in the past and you can see parts of it starting to become a reality. Like, for just like on a different note with The Handmaid's Tale. And I remember like reading it and thinking like, okay, how the heck was this written, like, what, in the 80s? And so many things that we were scared about then, or Margaret Atwood was scared about then are like starting to like actually become a reality. And yeah, it's interesting because both of them sort of, they highlight certain terrifying things that have happened already in history that are occurring now somewhere in the world, like burning books, which is terrifying to see. And it's something that we can learn from, but not in a distant past. We can learn from it as it's happening currently.
And like be the people who speak out like against it too, because that was one thing that they say is that, I can't remember who it was, maybe Faber, who was like, I wish I would have said something, or I never said anything. I just let it happen.
Yeah, he was saying like, I kind of tried at first, but then I was a minority, and so I just shut up.
Yeah.
Which is all too real. Yeah.
Laura, were you gonna say something?
Yeah.
Oh, just I guess about seeing the present in the books that or science fiction books. I think like you can look at it two ways in that like Margaret Atwood or Ray Bradbury were writing about their fears for the future, and then it's interesting to be in the future and see which fears came to pass and which didn't. But also, I think they were writing about their present and what they saw, problems they saw in their own society, and because like history repeats itself, and because our society has come out of their societies that we read these books and we think they're sort of freakish, like predictions of freakishly accurate predictions or with great foresight, but maybe these authors were just making commentaries on things that they saw around them, and that's why they hit so close to home. So yeah.
I have a question. So if we like, I was talking to Angela about this too. Like, if we have a framework for what has happened in the past, why does history repeat itself despite terrible things that we see happen in the past?
I think people have short memories, and I think
or overlook them, because some of these are not very distant. Like, we're talking like 10, 20 years.
Or we separate ourselves from those people thinking that we are different or better than they were, and we don't make those mistakes, but we're really blind to the fact that we do.
And I said this with Sarah, but like I think that a lot of it too comes down to essentially really, really effective, in essence, propaganda, because we see this. Okay, this was the example I used, but in America, we see this all the time where there will be a politician that some people don't agree with, and they will find so many reasons why they are doing things that are like the next. Everyone always uses, Hitler as the epitome of what we never want to happen again. And no matter what side of the party, for years and years, everyone's like, oh, this person's going to be this bad guy. This person's going to be this bad guy. And half of the people disagree. And then the next time, the other half of the people disagree. And everyone has a lot of really good, like I said, propaganda one way or the other. And we're very influenced by, especially now, the internet. Like social media literally caters to what it uses the algorithm to see what you believe in, and they have been proven that they show things and even news articles that match what you believe in, not necessarily what is like. There's almost no straightforward fact anymore. Everything is like an opinion. And I think that the problem is when we look back, hindsight's 2020, and we're like, oh, of course, this is what led to this happening. But when it's happening in the present, we're kind of persuaded to believe certain things and blinded by other things that it's hard to even
Angela, on Netflix recently, there's a documentary that came out about like that discussed a lot of the things that you just said, the social dilemma.
Yeah, Brit wrote about that too, and that's what made me think of it. Yeah,
so I watched that around the same time as reading the book, and it brought up a lot of the things that you just described. And in a way, it's like Ray Bradbury gets it right, because I think the way we remember history depends on this like which stories we have access to and how we tell the story. Like, because as soon as history happens, it becomes a story, and everybody has their own version. And depending on where you live, or like what media you're exposed to, you're going to be exposed to a different version of this story. And like people tell these stories with agendas, and I think it's like Angela said, living in a world where nobody knows what to believe anymore is like dangerous, and dangerously close to the world of Fahrenheit 451. So it's interesting watching that documentary alongside the book.
Yeah. Another good one, like as far as media, has anyone seen the Book of Eli?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's what I was thinking about the whole time when we got to the end. Yeah. I love them.
Yeah, Book of Eli is also like that. Like it's like a set in a futuristic dystopian world, and it's like the power of a book. Like Denzel Washington's character has, as far as we're aware of, the last remaining Bible, which was like the powerful book. And so then it's like that kind of thing where we discuss the power of word, and that's what Beatty was talking about too, you know, like, yeah, there's so many. Sarah and I were talking, like, there's so many layers to this. We could just go into so many different directions with the conversation from Fahrenheit 451. But yeah,
we talked for quite a bit of time. I was like, I have so many thoughts. I don't know how to condense them into anything. And now I'm like,
yeah.
And what's amazing is it's such a short book too.
It's so short.
So short.
And you don't see that. You don't see that very often with new releases. Like, I feel like books tend to be a little bit, or lately have tended to be a little bit longer, but it's like so concise and there's so many layers to it. So
yeah, like you can read it in one sitting. Like
I read it today.
I did.
No.
Yeah.
I literally read it today. Oh.
I
Yeah,
have my points, but like I just want us to keep going because I just feel like we're going in a good direction.
I was curious though, like so I'm an INFJ. So basically, I don't know if you guys know what Myers-Briggs personality tests are, but it's sort of like it's interesting because you basically answer a bunch of questions about how you perceive the world, and it just basically feeds your answers back to you and categorizes you into one of the columns. It's like any other personality test, right? So when you get the answers, it's like, oh my gosh, that's totally me. And it's like, well, yeah, that's your answers. So of course it is. But INFJs are like very constantly in my mind, I think about like moral, ethical issues, like constantly. And then another thing that happens too sometimes when I read books is like the F portion, which is feeling versus thinking. I think it's either T or F, so thinking or feeling. And so when I was reading the book, like there were parts of it where I just felt so like angry. And I'm not an angry person, but there were just so many things in there that was just like infuriating. And I couldn't really find the stem of what was irritating me so much about it. And I think for me, it was the fact that I was like, this is such a like messed up, terrible, whatever world. But then seeing it trickle into, oh wait, this still happens, or that still happens. So I'm curious to see what your feelings were like as you were reading the book. Did you have like as strong of an emotional response, for instance? And what was it? Was it different? Was it not anger, but like sadness or, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I felt very angry at certain parts of the book. Like when he was just walking down the road and the kids in the car tried to run him over and then intentionally turned around to come try to hit him again. Like, oh my God. And like, this is a normal thing. He's like, oh, it's just kids trying to run me over. I'll get in the alley. I'm like, normal. Like that you feel relieved that they're just teenagers trying to run you over. Like
what the? Like, you can die.
Yeah. Oh, that made me so mad. Or when the Millie, his wife, was like, well, can we get like a fourth wall to add on here? And we'll just like stop getting other things and you can just work harder and I'll sit home all day and just like hang out in my parlor with my walls. That made me so mad. I think probably even madder than the teenagers, which is kind of ridiculous. But
Mildred's character infuriated me.
I hated her.
I couldn't. Like, oh my gosh. I felt so bad for her and like so sad for her, but at the same time, just like constantly, like her actions just infuriated me so much.
Yeah.
I think Go ahead, Kristen.
No, you go.
Okay. I think I read her, like, I read her pill taking at the start as a suicide attempt. Like, I don't, I think I didn't, it wasn't clear whether it was intentional or not. So I think I like felt more sad for her because I thought of her as someone who was sort of in this fog or was brainwashed or was so drawn in by these highly addictive, like, whatever they were, TV shows or whatever, and who would occasionally wake up from that and just be like overwhelmed by the meaninglessness of her life, that she would do things like take those pills and then but then in order to forget it, return to the distractions that she set up for herself, and maybe there just weren't any other options for her, you know. So
My feelings were the same as Laura. I read the pill taking as like a suicide attempt too, and then saw how there were so many other people who were trying to do the same thing. And I think that what I felt the most when I read this book, it was like this sense of like despair, almost like how in the world can we possibly prevent this from happening to us? Because I think that in some ways, like, we already have media that tries to suck us into it and never let us get out. Like the way that, like with YouTube videos, if you click on one, it's like you have a very short ad in between, and then another one comes on, and you can like just get sucked in, and then like 6 hours later, like, where is your life? You've just been watching YouTube videos, and that's how it was for Mildred. Like she would watch like a TV show or whatever, and then it would just keep going, and there would always be something to stimulate her and distract her mind in a way that she never needed to think for herself. And all my life, whenever people have like gone home from work and stuff, their way to relax would be to like sit down and watch TV. And I think that hobbies kind of go out the window. I think that thinking and just taking time apart from the media goes out the window too. I think a lot of people see entertainment as the one thing that they want to be doing in their free time, like watching Netflix or something, you know? So I'm afraid that we're already on that path.
Well, I think we are for sure. I mean, I feel like I took some time off after I graduated from school. I was like, I'm just going to relax. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And I was literally depressed after like 2 weeks because I wasn't doing anything. And so I could see how if that's all you did, you get depressed. And they even took things away from society that you could use to change that. Like they took away front porches. You couldn't sit out and chat with people out in the open fresh air. Like you had to chat with them in your parlors with all the stimulation. And obviously they took away walking because people will just run you over. So you have to go for a walk. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I was told something before, and I really think that a lot of times it's true. I think that like Netflix and YouTube can be, you know, a nice way to unwind for a little bit. But when it starts to become excessive, it was pointed out to me that if you really think about it, when you spend an entire day on the couch watching TV or on the computer or whatnot, you don't feel bad usually, but you also don't really feel good. Like it's more just like a neutral, like you felt neutral that day. You got to, like, as they say, veg out and just do nothing. And so it's like that difference between, like, I feel like that kind of, I could imagine how the people in Fahrenheit 451 would feel if that was their entire all day, every day. Like nothing would really ever make you feel good. Because like Kristen had said, a lot of it is interactions with people in real life and relationships and being in nature and pets and things like that. And that emptiness would be really depressing. And Bridge M Books had a good question too, whenever you see that about this.
Did anyone else think that the distractions in the book were linked to consumerism?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that kind of relates to something else I wanted to say a little bit more of, which is that we're kind of fed to believe that this is what we should want to do. Like the whole culture of like chilling out and watching Netflix all day, or the things that we're fed to believe that we should like. I just feel like people don't think that we can form our own decisions about what we want anymore, and we just let people think for us instead of thinking ourselves, and that consumeristic media plays into that too.
Yeah, and I think for instance, in the book they sort of hinted that Mildred and Montag had a past that they couldn't remember, and he couldn't remember meeting her. But then I think he has like one moment of remembering her as a younger woman or as a girl, but he can't remember them. So it sort of hints that maybe they were born into a world like our world, and that they did have a relationship at one point, but before they were consumed by these distractions. And I guess like watching, I guess the point of a lot of these distractions is like to keep people coming back, and to expose them to advertising, and you know, to sell products, and to brainwash people into being good consumers, which would tie into consumerism very well. And that's the concern about the internet, is that we're being manipulated and exposed to different things in order to sell us products. So yeah,
I checked on Instagram the other day because like it's funny, this doesn't relate to the book. I mean, I didn't do it because of the book, but like I wanted to turn my phone back into like just a phone and not having tons of like social media or any apps or stuff like that on it. And like in the process, I was looking at Instagram, and you see at the most 2 to 3 posts from people that you follow before you get an ad, either in stories or on your feed. So literally at least 25 more percent of what you consume in like a couple of seconds is consumerism. It's just products trying to be sold to you. And that like blew my mind when I actually like counted. I'm like, wow, every 2 to 3 is an ad in the stories or on the feed. And I'm like, yeah, that's consumerism right there, baby.
And on a different note, since we're all in BookTube,
yeah,
consumerism in BookTube, which is another topic, it's huge, and I try my best to fight it. But like it is like rampant, and it is like crazy, right? Like I cannot say how anyone else should you know, spend their money or spend money on book hauls and those sort of things, and things that give other people joy, like with their hard-earned money. But at the same time, I think that there's a problem if we're fed to think we have to do it.
Have to, yeah.
And a lot of people did kind of think for a while. I know there was talk about feeling like people thought they couldn't be a booktuber if they didn't have those Billy bookcases with all the shelves. I do this because it makes me happy, you know, but like I would hate to think that anyone felt like they needed to.
Yeah.
I also think I've also picked up on that consumerism on BookTube, but I also think in going back to what Angela said about the Instagram ads, is I think what we're being exposed to online is we like the platforms want to make it so that we are exposed to the most amount of material, because then we're exposed to the most advertisements, and that's how these companies make money. So so there's also sort of this element of shortening attention spans, and that goes against reading and books, and like what the foundation of what a novel is something that you have to sit down and take time with, and something that you know, that isn't a distraction, that isn't mindless, that you have to sort of do purposefully, and that you have to like, that's slow burning, and that goes against what that goes against sort of what advertisers want in a way. And so turning BookTube into a place where you're just like showing books that you haven't read yet, or you're talking about the cover art, which I love that sort of video, but I just think the most important part of BookTube is like the discussion and the reviews of the actual book, because it kind of pushes back against that like culture of reading 30-second articles or like reading tweet-sized bits of writing. So yeah.
On that note, like I completely agree, and I had a question, and I think Laura might have answered it there before I asked it. Is I was going to say, we tend to view books a lot more highly than other forms of entertainment and media, when in essence they kind of are the same. Like if you watch a 2-hour-long movie, you follow the story. Like that's why, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, these books were made into the movies and whatnot. And so essentially you're still getting a story, but we also do tend to think a lot higher of books. And I was kind of curious as if we had any ideas why we think of books differently than those kinds of entertainment. But that is kind of a good point. It's a lot more of slowing down and pulling away, and but yeah.
I also think to answer, sorry.
I didn't know where I was going with that, so I'm glad. I was just kind of trailing off.
Yeah, no, I think that's such an interesting thing, because I do think like books and TV shows are valuable, and even like video games as a form of literature are valuable. I think what's sort of unique about books is, one, like in order to produce a video game or in order to produce a movie, you need like such a big budget. So what tends to be produced is what's popular and what's guaranteed to sell. And so it's, responding to like there's fewer films that are, produced and for niche markets, whereas there's so much room for and there's still problems in which and how certain books are marketed and, which books reach consumers. But I feel like there's so much more room for diversity in books.
There
in
totally
terms of
is.
like expressing ideas and so I think there's that. And then I think there's also the element of, in a book, less of the work is done for you. There's something about film and television where I know everyone's experienced loving a book and then going to a movie and being frustrated in how the story was interpreted, and you not having seen it in that way, the way that's so I think there's an extra layer of like
almost what they want you.
You're not having to interpret.
Interpret.
You're not having to. You're not as much as left up to the imagination, I guess, and in the medium of film. So yeah. Anyway, Sarah, you were going to say something.
When I not all the authors that I read do this, but like one thing that I really like about books is that sometimes, like I have had this happen many times where, first of all, like I have a hearing issue in my right ear. So there are so many times where I'm just like, what did they say? What did they say? What did they say? So that's just one thing. And captions help me a ton. But secondly, like when I watch something like on film, I sort of see like what the videographer wants you to see, but I don't get told how to interpret it. So like, for instance, like I'll see somebody like grabbing their keys and going to work, right? Whereas like, for instance, like in a book, they will literally say like, Sally is grabbing her keys on her way to work. Like, so I think that's sort of like what you were saying, like it spells it out for you. And also too, I like to know what characters are thinking, like not just what they say, but little cues that I might not necessarily like see, like she spoke hesitantly. And then maybe I'll understand that the actor wanted to like be like taken as speaking hesitantly, but I might not actually capture that. I might just think that, she needed to like sneeze. I don't know. Like, I just like, I don't necessarily always like, I don't gain as much in that sense. I gain other things. Like I gain other things from watching videos. But from reading a book, like I just want to dissect every little nook and cranny.
And
that's why I like Dickens.
Yeah, I guess you're forced in film to see it from third person omniscient kind of. You're seeing it from outside, whereas when you read, you always get that sense that you're inside the head of the characters.
Yeah, and I like that. But still, we're only like told what the author wants us to know that's going on in their mind. But still, I think that it captures something that video doesn't necessarily capture.
And I think there's like a sense of ownership a little bit too whenever you read a story versus watching the movie, because part of it like only exists in your brain and you imagined it and processed it in a way that only you could. So when we read a book, we all kind of have our own version of the story that's filtered through our experiences.
And I think you can show that because like you can remember, like for me, Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. I remember the book, and then I also remember the movie. And I get frustrated that they're not close enough. But I had drastically different experiences, like reading the book versus watching the movie.
And I think because I read all of the Jane Austen books like when I was in high school, and I think that in reading those books, they really shaped the way that I think. Like I took on so much of the way that the characters thought and the way that the story was told into my brain that I kind of became a little bit like a person from the 1800s. Like I'm so serious. Like the grooves of my brain like seem to shape around the story and the way they talked. And I think when you watch a movie, you don't spend those hours and hours immersed into these mannerisms and the way that things are. And I think that books can personally and mentally change you in a way that movies can't, maybe, although you could rewatch movies over and over, but I still don't think it's quite as powerful.
Yeah, and I guess too the reverse is true. Also, how we said that you're getting like, so a book is typically one person. Oh no. A book is typically the author, right? I know there's other people along in the process, but it's mostly the thoughts of an author. Whereas when you go into a production of media, now you get input all along the way, and that changes and nuances shift, and like you get a little bit of influence by what other people want things to be like different people are cast for roles that maybe didn't fit what the author intended the role to be, and different things like that. So that's influenced that way too. Yeah, I think I agree though. I feel the same way. I don't know. I feel like I don't want to be like elitist thinking that books are the best form of anything, but I mean, I kind of do. And maybe it's just because they've been around for thousands of years. Maybe it's
sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. Books have been around for so much longer than anything else has. And I agree. I like the idea that we can, if it's fiction, get the experiences from one person. If it's nonfiction, like it's easier. You're not going to be able to have a textbook on a screen very easily and get that. So yeah, I agree. I just wanted to bring up like why, because in Fahrenheit 451, it's very clearly making the statement that like books are dangerous, but this stuff isn't. And that's why I was like, I wonder what the difference is. Why do we think that? But yeah, you guys all had really good points. I agree.
Well, my thought on it when you first said it was super different than all you guys's, but when I thought about it, it's like when you are on your phone or watching TV or playing video games, like it's actually sending different signals in your brain, like the different things that are released in your brain are different than when you're reading a book. Mm-hmm. So like video games, TV, and your phone are actually very addictive. to your brain. Like your brain wants more of it, which obviously we can see. You can watch 6 hours of YouTube and not even notice it, right? But like you want to keep doing it. Like once you start playing those video games or start watching Netflix, like your brain is like, yeah, we want to keep doing that. This is like, it's very stimulating for your brain. And books are different. Like you can read a book and your brain can still relax afterwards, like I guess depending on the book, right? But like it's not sending the different things in your brain that changes the way it's working. I don't know. That's kind of how I thought about it. And it is super addictive. So, I mean, when you have all those screens around you constantly, like you just keep wanting it and you want more and that's all you want to do. And you're not really willing to invest your time into relationships or getting outside or doing those things.
Stephanie, my scientist brain is just like, science. Yes. Science.
I thought too.
Yeah, you're absolutely right too. Because as us on BookTube or any Bookstagram, anything, like how many times have we said, put your phone down and start reading? You know, pick up a book. Yeah, just like what you said.
Love it.
I don't know. And I always like, I'm reading and then I'll get to the end of a chapter and without thinking, I just like go and grab my phone, scroll through for a little bit. And then I'm like, oh no, put it back down and go back to reading my book. And it's terrible because it doesn't matter how good the book is. Like I still do it.
Yeah.
I know, and I guess my thing is, why do we do that? I mean, I know it must be designed that way. And like I was reading something, I was talking about all the like colors on your phone and all of the sound effects and things like that. Really, like that's kind of what makes it so engaging. And you can do something like turn your phone to grayscale, and it'll help like get rid of some of that like addictive factors, I guess. But I don't know if it was in this book or something, but they talked about how it was like a blessing that it was like you could put a book down, but it seems like with TV shows or YouTube videos or TikTok is the thing now, right? Like you almost can't get out of them, right? Like I hear about
5 seconds. That's all we have. Like we just have like 5 seconds of attention span. Like what the heck?
But Kristen, you're right. They did. That sentence stood out in the book to me too, where he said the great thing about a book is you can put it down, put it away, and you can step away from those ideas. And like they don't have that with the fourth wall thing. And well, what's scary about cell phones is like they're such an amazing tool. But I was thinking the other day, I literally use my cell phone for everything that I do in a day. Like I wake up, go for a run, I take it on my run to track the like distance. Even like if I'm I play the viola, not very well, but like when I'm practicing, I have the phone on the stand because I'm using it to like tune the instrument and stuff. Literally everything I do, I use this tool, which is fine because it's an amazing tool. But what it does is it means that every moment in your day, you're vulnerable to the distractions, and that you can be like you're vulnerable to these distractions, but you're exposed to like either advertising or notifications. Like it's like every moment of the day you can be reached, you can be contacted, and it's sort of that's what scares me is that you can't step away from it because these messages like you're not soliciting them, they're coming to you. So I mean, I went in and turned my notifications off, and that helped. But it's like it's not so much that we're using them because I think they're a great tool. It's just the fact that we can never disconnect, and that we're not like you choose to pick up a book where that just using these tools that like increasingly we're having to use in order to function in society, like people's banking's online, and even like I couldn't get by without the maps feature. I have a terrible sense of direction.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, right?
I don't know how people did it, honestly, before that.
Print out MapQuest.
Just like in the car, just like with the map, like trying to drive. The map.
My
is, like,
grandparents did that.
That was
But
so
honestly,
funny.
the same thing as those fourth walls and taking away the front porch. You can't sit out on your front porch. You can't like get away from this stuff because you're needing to use it all day, and you're carrying around these devices where you can be contacted at any time. And increasingly, like you're expected to answer emails outside of your working hours. You're expected to, to be prompt in and always connected. And I think that's dangerous because that makes me feel like we're veering towards Mildred's reality, or her wall. So yeah.
And the unspoken like social pressures, like as someone who, like, we're all on booktube, right? So I feel like sometimes in the past 2 months I have been so disconnected from everything social, and I worry about my friendships that I've created. Like the social media is the way that I build and foster and interact with my friends like you guys, and if I'm not there, like, oh no, are my friends gonna forget about me, or I'm gonna miss out?
It's totally cool. It's totally okay because I know there's a worry. I know there's a worry, right? But like, for instance, I've done Bookstagram for years now, right? And there are people that I still talk to, like, who, like, I started Bookstagram and we still talk like all the time, even though when I was in grad school, like I was never like, there were like months and months in between where I wasn't on.
Do you see two Lauras?
I see two Lauras.
You see two Lauras.
Sorry, I'm having problems.
Hang on.
You can only see one face. Okay.
Two Lauras are better than one, so I'm fine with it.
I think that there is sort of like a, I can hear like a crackling.
Oh.
It was like squeaky shoes almost.
Yeah. Yes.
I think
it's
good.
good
Is
now.
that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
My phone's almost out of battery, so I'm trying to plug it in. But because of these new iPhones, you can't like use the earphones and charge them at the same time. So when I keep them to charge, it makes a crackling sound. So that's fine. I think I'm good. I'm good for a few minutes.
Okay.
We only have a few minutes left anyway, so.
Yeah. Yeah, we can end soon. I'm glad I just did this outline in the last minute. What were we saying?
I don't know. I feel like tying in with distractions, tying in with everything else, right? And also with like feeling disconnected and those sorts of things. I think just like from reading this book and just having like a knowledge of like what we're being shown, it's just like the importance of balance, right? Like balance with distractions, because distractions necessarily like aren't bad. Using your phone, like Laura was mentioning, is an amazing tool and is not in itself bad. Being on every second of the day, that's probably not okay. Like, and having some sort of balance that allows you to be productive, feel good about like things that you want to nurture. Like, for instance, there are so many things outside of BookTube, Bookstagram, like all of those that are so important and vital to feeling like your best and feeling fulfilled, and like you are like managing like all of your other priorities, like your social, like family, like so many other things are important. And it's also important to instill some sort of balance and boundaries in your life as well, because people who care will stay.
Oh, we lost Laura.
Oh.
I know.
Right after you said people who care will stay.
Oh, that was bad timing.
Most of it.
Sarah, that was like, I feel like that was like a lesson that I needed a little bit right there. Like, I forgot, but you're right. The people who care, they will like stay.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think that they're like, I don't want it to seem like I am the one who is so susceptible to technology the most and like the fears of it, but I just want to be a good friend, I guess. And so I feel like, I want to be there, and I see my friends like saying things, and like I know they don't care when you miss it, but there's just that little like pressure, anxiety, to be present.
Yeah.
Which of course, right? But also you need to be able to do other parts of your life as well. So don't feel too bad about that sort of thing, because like I said, people who care will Laura, I didn't mean to say it at that time. Oh my gosh. But but yeah, it's just important. And then checking in every so often, for instance, that's a good, like, you don't have to be there every minute, and you're not a bad person if you aren't.
Thank you. Well, we could clearly, go on for ages and ages. Like, I have like 7/8 of an outline that we could do, but we're already at an hour. So do you guys just want to move to doing, is this a top shelf read?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
Angela.
Me?
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So I thought about it, and I think I have the same answer that Sarah had for our last book. In that, I think that you said about like the House in the Cerulean Sea, that you see the value of it, and you're very glad. Like, I'm very glad that I read this again. I don't remember it from high school that much, and I'm really glad that I read it again, and I see the value, and I think that most people should read it at least once. But it's not one that I'll probably ever really want to read again. And like, it's so I don't know that I would say it's a top shelf. I would say it's like a good educational, people should read it, but like, it's not necessarily like one of my all-time favorites.
And then I'll say mine. So I'm going to say that, yes, it is a top shelf read. And I think it just all depends on like the definition of what a top shelf read kind of is to you. So like for me, it definitely isn't like what I normally like to read, but I think that there's something in it that's rare and special that other people need. And that's really instructive. And also, I think it was just so beautifully written, all these quotable moments. The very first sentence, it was a pleasure to burn. But also that quote that's like, stuff your eyes with wonder, he said, live as if you dropped dead in 10 seconds. Like, it inspired me. And I still think about this book, and I'm still trying to figure out like what it's teaching me and what I can do personally to counteract the effects from the culture around me and things that are happening. Like I'm like trying to listen to the warning signals. And I think that when a book has such a tangible effect like on your life and on how you live, I think that's when it becomes a top shelf read. And so I think that because of that, like, and its effect it had on me, it's top shelf.
Stephanie?
I honestly had very similar thoughts to Kristen on this one. I think it had amazing themes that it kind of discussed, and it had great insights, and it was very interesting and thought-provoking, and makes you kind of look into society as a whole, but into yourself, and be like, am I doing this? Like, could I be the next Mildred? Because like, I don't want that, right? And so it really makes you think, it makes you look at what's going on in life, and it definitely makes you evaluate things differently than a lot of other books do. So while I didn't love it, it wasn't like a 5-star read for me. It's not a new favorite. Like, I'm not going to be telling everyone to read this book. I think it's a top shelf read just because of the themes and the things, like how much it makes you think and look into the world and really consider things in a different light. So yeah. Sarah,
the wild card.
Yes.
I thought it was so obvious. Like, honestly, I loved it.
Yes.
It was so good. To me, like, I read the book, and literally I was like, this is a book. Like, this book is like such a book. It's ridiculous. Like, it is short, like we've said, it is concise, but it talks about so many concepts, and it's like literally like invaded the popular like culture and like shows and movies that I'm like, oh my gosh, was this a Fahrenheit 451 reference? It's just, to me, it's just amazing. And this is what I think, like, this is like this book is like one of the reasons that I read, is to see the world in a way that I might not have necessarily seen otherwise. The Handmaid's Tale had an effect on me like this. And it's like one of the best books I've ever read. And I think everyone needs to read that book, no pressure. But Fahrenheit 451 is a book that like literally, I don't care if someone's gonna like it. I don't care if they don't like it. You need to read it. Like at the very least, read it. Just like you read, like, I don't know, like just how you have to learn like your ABCs, you need to read this book because you got to understand why people need to care about the existence of books and why they are so powerful and what can happen if we don't have them, if we don't have access to them. So like, I'm going a little crazy about this book, but like, I just absolutely loved it. And I think that like, it's not just like a 5-star read, it's one of the best.
Wow.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Who suggested was it? I don't remember. Who suggested this one?
I don't, was it Yesenia?
I think
Was it Yesenia?
Might have been.
I think it was. And I think every book that Yesenia has suggested has been our winner.
Maybe we should just let her.
Yeah, totally.
The next two, we get one of Sarah's and one of mine. So like,
Yes, that's a good. That's a good point, and that's a good transition too, I think. So, our book for next month, October, is going to be Mexican Gothic. I'm excited.
Sarah's excited.
Oh, Angela, you've already read it.
Me and Leanne from Scrap Paper Scribbler Buddy read it, and yeah, so I'm very curious to hear everyone's thoughts.
Did you like it?
I can't tell you.
Oh no!
No spoilers. I can't tell you. It's a surprise.
What? Oh my gosh! Now I want to know everything you think about the book.
So like
Yeah.
I will say because with a lot of horror type stories, what the thing is, you know, can sometimes be metaphorical and things like that. So I would recommend reading an interview with the author when you're done to get another perspective. So yeah.
Cool.
You should guess which of us you think will like it.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Oh god.
Prediction.
Yeah, I've never read a horror before, so I don't know if you guys enjoy those or not. Because it is like a horror type, creepy gothic type book.
I
love
I'll tell
Gothic
you a little
I like
thing. I'm like I watch like a horror movie like every couple of weeks.
I love
Okay.
Wuthering
I
Heights.
love it.
All right, here's my prediction.
Love horror.
Is I think that this is going to be one of those that people can be very split on. I do think that either you're going to love it or you're going to be like, I'm sorry, what? Excuse me? Like, what?
That's what I've heard. I've
Yeah,
heard that
so
you
I
either
think
love it or hate it.
I
Yeah,
don't
literally.
think I don't know if it's like hate is a strong word, but it's a very unique story, and I feel like you're either gonna be all in or you'll be like not a fan.
Is it like Wuthering Heights?
Heights horror?
I've never read Wuthering
what?
Heights. I'm gonna be
I've
honest.
never read Wuthering Heights.
I've never
Well,
read
no,
that yet.
It's
I know it's a book you should read.
Yes, we should definitely read that one. But no, I thought it was just like supposed to, look, Laura's back. Yay!
I have
We were
really
just-
bad technology, sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, I'm
Tell
glad
us
you're
if
back.
it was a top shelf read for you.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it was actually. I really liked. What did you all say?
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, only Angela said no.
Well, I
Cool.
said it was important. I think the reason with me is that I'm already very, like, I'm sure you all know, I don't really post on the internet very much. I'm kind of like, I've always been a little of the mindset where I don't really like technology. I grew up in the early 90s before it really became a thing. And so for me, reading a book talking about like the dangers of it, I'm like, yeah, I already feel this way. It's just really depressing because I see us going this way. It just kind of depressed me because I'm like, yeah, I already feel this way. So it was a top shelf read, but it was kind of like, meh. Sad
Yeah.
for me.
Laura, it was one of the best books I've ever read.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. I'm very happy with it.
I do kind of agree in that, like, how short yet like hard hitting it was what impressed me. It's just like it was very, very obviously very skillfully written, which is really cool. But I sort of understand, Angela, it's not something that I'd be like, can't wait to read that again. Like, it's not something that instills me with hope. Yeah, and I think it's interesting, like, we're one of the last generations, and like I'm sort of in between in age, like one of the last years that's considered a millennial. So sort of like in between millennial and Gen, what is the next one? I don't even know. But we're like one of the last generations that's going to remember the world before it was like this, before all this technology. So like, I feel like there's a responsibility that comes with that to keep people keep things in check.
Yeah, so. And to carry the books within us somehow too, you know, like that, how the ending was, they're each a book. I think that was really powerful.
Can I ask a question? I know we're trying to wrap up, but I always thought this was interesting. If you all were going to carry one book within you, which one would it be?
Oh my God, that's the best.
You don't
question.
have to. You don't have to. I don't even have my own answer. I was just curious if anybody has that book that is like their soul.
I will show you.
Sarah's like, got it, me.
This one.
There you go.
It's useful AF.
That would be useful. That would be very useful.
So yeah, I probably do one of my nonfictions, honestly. I'd want to pick maybe a survival like nonfiction book.
Yeah,
something along those lines. But if I were to recommend like a book to read for enjoyment, and that was the only, I don't know if it's enjoyment, but my number one like best book ever is actually there's two. So I don't have
a good memory. I think you can hold two books.
You can hold two.
Okay, so my number one is Night by Elie Wiesel.
Oh yeah, that's rough.
That book is just, I think, so important, and I would like hold on to that book with like my dear life. And then the other one is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Those two books, I would have no problem fighting someone over or burning.
I feel like I've never read this book, so it's weird that I'm going to choose it. But Sarah reminded me when you showed your first textbook. I feel like I would do On the Origin of Species, because I just feel like that was such an important idea. And to lose that, how far back would we go in our understanding of science and the world and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can't choose a book like my favorite book, though, like Sarah, you did. I just couldn't choose. Too hard.
It's hard.
I think that mine would probably be Jane Eyre, because that story, it inspires me, and I see so much of myself in it. And if I only read it over and over again, I would be happy.
Oh. Me? Gosh, you guys are all picking like deep books, and I'm like, I'm picking Stormlight Archive. I'm gonna have to do a lot of memorizing.
No, yeah, I was the same because, like, okay, ironic because I haven't actually read the books yet, but I know I'm going to love them when I read them. Is like I would do like the Lord of the Rings trilogy because
You've never read it?
I have them. They're on my shelf right here. I'm waiting until I move.
They're like the best.
They're so
Good.
good. Those are some of my
Good.
favorites.
I've
Yeah,
never
I'm
read
waiting
them
until
either.
I
I'm
move
sorry,
to
guys.
Oregon.
I couldn't with those ones.
Oh no. See, I'm about to be in like a
I'm
state that
sorry.
has like
I know. You're like, and now let's like, yeah.
I
That's-
like The Hobbit.
Let's pick out. Oh my god, I did not like like there was so much singing.
Oh, I
Like,
love the singing.
I'm sorry. I couldn't with The Hobbit. I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do it.
So Sarah would never come to hear my story time. Okay, thanks.
I would be there, Angela.
I just feel like it can apply to so much in life, and it's so inspiring. And it has my favorite quote. Sam's quote is like the best quote of all time. He's my freaking favorite. Stephanie, we need to talk about this.
Sorry. Well, I'll hear from you guys. I'm sure.
Oh my
Too
god.
much singing. That's all.
I feel like that like was kind of a personality test. Like we see like what everybody,
Yes.
like scientists, logical people, and
Wait,
Like-
Stephanie, did you choose a book yet?
I did. I was this. It's multiple books, but you can't just have like the first in a series, you know. So I'm taking the Stormlight Archive. Hopefully, we don't burn until it's complete. So. Have you heard of that, Laura? I don't know if that's.
No, but I'll look. What the Stormwise Archives?
It's The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. That
Oh,
series.
yeah. I know that series. I've not read them, but I know of them.
Oh my gosh, they're so good.
Oh, I'll have to read them. Yeah.
Can I just hear real quick, like just one quick, like, what was the star rating? I'll start. 5. Yes. Kristen?
Angela won't like this because she doesn't like stars.
no,
I'm sorry.
I don't mind it at all. I'm curious to hear what everyone started as.
Only very certain things really should be 5 stars for me, but I do half star ratings, so 4.5.
Oh, tricky.
Yeah.
Angela, are you next?
I don't do them because I have no idea. Because like I said, I see the value of this. If we were talking about like literary, I would say, yeah, probably 4 to 5 stars. But like as far as personal enjoyment, I don't know. So I don't know. I guess don't people average at like 3 or something then?
Mm-hmm.
But see, it doesn't deserve a 3. It deserves more than that. So I don't know.
Maybe like a Caw Piles or something.
But that's the problem with the star rating. You don't know, like, should I rate it on its merit alone or on like my personal feeling? That's what I'm always conflicted with as well.
I love that Caw Pile is like so common now when it was like invented by G. And she's like, this is just what I do. Let me show you how I do it. And now it's like a thing.
She just like invents like all the things. She's just so like brilliant.
She's so creative. And she puts so much effort into things too. She's like, here's this spreadsheet. Let me enter it this way. I'm like, I'll like write it down in my notebook.
But she like talks in such a chill way, like effortlessly, that I'm just like, oh my gosh, I wish I had your brain.
I know.
What's yours, Stephanie?
Oh, my rating? I'm honestly kind of with Angela on this. I don't like to really rate classics or books that I feel like have a lot of merit. Like you said, like they're very good books and I think people should read them. But personally, like I didn't love reading it. Like while I was reading it, I wasn't like, this is my favorite thing ever. So I'm kind of with you. I'd say 4 stars just because my enjoyment rating would probably be 3, but like merit would be 5. So I'll give it a 4.
I always give 5 stars if I think like if I would reread it as well. Almost all of my 5 stars are potential rereads, but not all of them. This would be a reread, but like in a minute, you know?
This was a reread for me. Was it for anyone else?
Angela, right?
Yeah, but that was like 12 years
Yesenia.
ago, so I don't remember it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, did you say Yesenia had read it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me,
So-
it was better reading the second time because I was older. And just by like a few more years, but everything seemed even more relevant.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we will go ahead and end our 5th live show here. That was all about Fahrenheit 451, and we hope to see you at a to be determined time in October to talk about Mexican Gothic. Bye!
Bye.